those who have followed your career for a long time know that you've obviously implemented elements from the world of MMA into your character and into your, your overall game inside the ring. When did you first become a fan of the sport?
Oh, I jumped on board very early. I don't know how. I think it was one of those. I think me and my friends saw an advertisement for it was either the first or the second UFC, and we got it because it was just. I mean, ignorant Senator McCain called it human cockfighting, but that is the whole reason why we got stoked on it. We were like, this is nuts, and that first one hooked us, and it's funny because I was taking Ryukyu Kempo from Bob Golden in Shanahan, Illinois, and it was great because it wasn't just Kempo. We had a jiu-jitsu guy, we had everything, and really early on we had Dan Severin from Michigan come down to train with us to learn jiu-jitsu because he was gearing up for his fight with Hoyt. So I've been a fan for many, 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 many years.
Did you ever think about going into MMA as opposed to pro wrestling?
I never thought about it back then. It didn't seem like a viable option. I've said in interviews since the beginning of time that I fell in love with pro wrestling at a very early age. So nothing was going to stop me from being a pro wrestler. Even if UFC got as big as it is now back then, I would probably still have my eyes on being a pro wrestler. But to say that it hasn't crossed my mind lately or, in the past 5 years would be a little silly.
Yeah, a lot of people want to know who's your favorite. Do you have one favorite fighter to watch? Are you a so-and-so guy, to steal a phrase from you?
Well, I'll always be a Paul Heyman guy. I would love to see Paul Heyman fight. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if I have like a through and through a favorite. And to me, the fascinating thing about MMA is, there's so many fighters and there are so many cards now that it's great. I always seem to pick a side. If I had to choose somebody, I'm a fan of all the old Pride guys. Obviously, Pride just captured everybody's imagination of what like modern day gladiators would be doing, and I don't know if I can pinpoint what. You know what, Dan Henderson, Hendo is probably my favorite fighter. I love that dude.
How when you talk about the locker room, obviously the Triple H's of the world aren't into it, but would you say most of the pro wrestlers, backstage have an appreciation for MMA, follow it? Are they bigger fans than we might expect? How would you categorize their interest in the sport?
Well, yesterday everybody was talking about Mayweather. I think next week everybody will be talking about John Jones and Rampage. We're on the road a lot. I think the last UFC I was actually able to order and watch live at home was maybe Kane and Brock. So the last thing I want to do when I'm on the road is find like a Hooters or something because, number one, I despise Hooters. And watching mixed martial arts as a pro wrestler in front of a bunch of drunk people always tends to be a very, very bad idea. Somebody always wants to test you. Somebody wants to say what I do is fake. So I think a lot of the guys are wrestling fans. I know a lot of the guys try to watch when they can. It's kind of difficult, too, since we're on the road about, I think, 380 days a year, as Hulk Hogan would say.
Yes. I remember, obviously, post-fight when Kane fought Brock, there was a little incident with the Undertaker. Did you ever hear about that thing where they had a? Yeah. What did you make of that? Is there really a beef there, or was that all? Was I just a part of the show there for a second?
I think I know more about that situation than most people.
Oh.
And I think, but see, here's the thing. I think that's something, that captivated the audience. I think everybody knows who the Undertaker is. I obviously everybody knows who Brock Lesnar is, and just the fact that two guys can walk past each other, shoot each other a glance, say a couple of words, and it gets the entire sports world buzzing. I think that's fantastic. That is, real or fake. That's Shakespeare. And I know my job is to suspend people's disbelief. And I think I do a very good job of. Even those people who are like, "Oh, pro wrestling's fake," they watch a lot of the stuff I do and they go, "Okay, that guy's real. That guy really just kicked that guy in the head. He really wasn't supposed to say that." I think that was one of those situations. I mean, Brock is a polarizing character. He came from pro wrestling, and he went into MMA with a lot of doubters, and he became UFC heavyweight champion.
Well, you're saying you know more about this situation than most. I've been racking my brain about this thing for a whole year. Can you shed a little light on it, or are you?
Yeah, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was the guy. I was the guy holding the mic.
Yeah.
Can you help me out?
Well, I think everybody expected Brock to win.
Right.
I think that was the big shocker. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Brock was trying to get a payday out of WrestleMania. Obviously, I know Dana would never allow that, but I think a lot of people would say that if anybody that is contractually obligated to UFC works with WWE, it would kind of tarnish the UFC. I can't really argue with that. And obviously Dana wouldn't let anybody do that, so we don't even have to speculate.
All right, last question before I let you go, CM. I know there are no pro.
Boo.
Yeah. Well, you're having that much fun.
I'm having a great time. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
There are no pro wrestling fans listening, so why don't you tell us who you're going to be competing against at WrestleMania, just for the hell of it?
You know what? I don't know who I'm competing against later tonight because the nature of my business is everything changes about every 3 minutes. A certain somebody continuously changes his mind. So a couple of names that you know what? Who I would like to face at WrestleMania?
Okay.
Would be Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh.
Steve's a little busy. At least that's what he says. I can't imagine Steve Austin would duck CM Punk. I mean, naturally he doesn't even think that I'm in his league. But in his absence from the ring, the league has changed. So I'm inclined to think it's more my league than it is his now. But Steve is Steve's busy with his movies. I think he's doing a couple movies with some MMA guys. So there's some more crossover for you.
Yeah,
Steve's who obviously the dream opponent. But as far as who I'm actually wrestling at WrestleMania, I could tell you, and it'll change 162 times just today. So I really don't know.
Let me ask you this, since you talked about crossovers. One last one. I lied about the other last one. You ever see an MMA guy that you think would do great in pro wrestling, that you think has it? I mean, I always thought Kimbo would be a great guy to have in WWE just because he can't really fight all that well in MMA, and he has a great look, and I think people would get behind him. But is there anyone that you could think of that you think would be very successful in the world of pro wrestling now?
I think there's lots. I think Rampage is the first guy that comes to mind. I mean, he did Raw a couple months back in Miami to promote what was it, the 18 movie. I think he's built in. I mean, he's modern day Junkyard Dog. I mean, he wears the chain, he does the bark, he can talk, and that's the main thing. There's a lot of guys though. Mayhem Miller would probably be a decent pro wrestler.
What about Nick Diaz?
Nick Diaz?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he ever bothered to show up, yeah, I think Nick Diaz would be a great pro wrestler. But that's the thing, you kind of gotta make the towns, Nick.
Very well said. Well, we appreciate you showing up today, CM. A huge honor for us, like I said. I know you're very busy, especially on Mondays, so you taking out the time meant a lot to us, and continued success. You've helped sort of unwillingly bringing me slowly back into wrestling, but I think you're doing great work, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck tonight and for the rest of your career in WWE and beyond.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. I only regret I wasn't on with Dana, so I can ask Dana a bunch of snarky questions. But maybe next time. You get us all on at once.
Absolutely, would love that. I think that would be ratings gold right there.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, bud.
All right, there he is, CM Punk joining us from Cleveland, the site of tonight's WWE Monday Night Raw, and like I said, appreciate him and all the great work that he's done over the last definitely several years in WWE, but especially as of late, really getting us back into it over here from my perspective, with some of his great interviews and the great action that he's the great action that he's had inside the rings.